There's a question. I do have a question though. If you've ascended and you have no attachments, then how come you're still here? You said that when one realizes these things, then one will leave Earth behind. So, why are you still here? I'm not sure if the questioner means me personally. Why am I personally still here, or more general? But the reason why I am still here is that I haven't ascended. I haven't claimed that in any of my videos. On the contrary, I've said that I am on the spiritual path and I have not reached the highest level of consciousness you can reach on Earth. I'm still looking for more subconscious cells, more illusions I need to overcome. So I wouldn't say that I've necessarily overcome all attachments, but I've certainly overcome a lot of attachments, and that has, of course, given me a greater peace of mind. And that's the same for all who have walked the mystical path. You can see many, many people, both historically and in the modern world, people who have generally overcome attachments and have reached a greater sense of peace of mind. And but that doesn't mean that. So what I'm saying is, you can overcome most of your attachments, if not all of your attachments, and still be an embodiment, because you are seeking to help others. You are seeking to inspire other people. And it's individual for the life plan that they have created. Before we come into embodiment, we create a life plan for what growth we want to attain and how we want to help other people, how we want to raise the whole, what gift we want to bring to Earth. And so the question is really, there are two aspects to your divine plan. One is the growth, which basically means resolving psychology, overcoming attachments. And the other is giving your gift. So you can have a person who has overcome a lot of attachments, resolved most of the psychology, so they are free to give their gift. But if they haven't finished giving their gift because there's more to do, then they'll, of course, stay in embodiment until they feel they've accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. And so that's one thing. But the ascension is a drastic process. I mean, you can't say you have ascended and you're still here. Because when you ascend, you leave behind the physical body. And not only do you leave behind this particular physical body that you are in your last embodiment, you leave behind the possibility of coming back into another embodiment. You are permanently leaving Earth behind, in the sense that you are no longer taking physical embodiment. But there are some ascended masters, because that's what happens when you ascend. You become an ascended master. And ascended masters have two options. One is they can move on in the many, many layers of the spiritual realm, or they can stay with Earth. And some ascended masters that we know of and that are giving teachings, they have chosen to stay with Earth because they want to help raise the whole. Saint Germain, for example, is a fairly well-known ascended master, and he's going to be the main spiritual leader or overseer for Earth for the next 2,000 years. And he has plans to take the Earth into a golden age with much higher levels of technological progress, spiritual progress, cultural progress, overcoming war, poverty, and many other problems. So there are spiritual people who they have not decided they want to ascend after this lifetime. They want to come back into embodiment to help Saint Germain manifest that golden age. There are others who work with other ascended masters to bring forth whatever these masters want to bring forth. It's all part of Saint Germain's golden age, but various masters have various aspects of it that they bring forth. And so there can be many, many people, I talk about that in my series about avatar psychology, who have it in their life plan to stay with Earth and to come back into embodiment even after this lifetime, and to help raise the Earth to a higher level. There are also some for whom it's in your life plan that this is your last embodiment, and then you really need to focus on resolving the psychology, overcoming the attachments, because when you ascend, you have to take that long last look back at Earth, and if there's anything that pulls you back here, you're not ready to ascend. You have to get to a point where you can permanently give up life on Earth. You give it up forever. You give it up completely. And then you can ascend. So you have to be careful you don't mix up the two things. There's a fundamental difference between an ascended master who is not coming back into physical embodiment. And then people who are still in physical embodiment might be coming back several times to help Earth progress. And you can have people who are coming back into embodiment, but who have overcome most of their attachments. They're just not ready to ascend. And you can have ascended masters who are staying with Earth, not because they're attached to Earth, but because they want to help people grow. See, maybe you have to also just step back and say, what is an attachment? An attachment is what comes from what I, in several videos, I call these subconscious selves, where there's something we feel we have to do. There's some problem we have to solve. So you can have a person, as I said, it's in their divine plan, their life plan, to help manifest Saint Germain's golden age. And this means that the person will come back into another lifetime. But this is not because there's an attachment that forces you to stay with Earth. But then you can have another person who seemingly has a similar desire to improve Earth, bring some kind of change, solve some kind of problem. But this is driven by a subconscious self, so they have an attachment because they feel they must do this, they have to do this. And it's an ego-driven desire because somehow, whatever the specific self is, they have this belief that this will make them seem very special. For example, you can have a person who seemingly has a legitimate desire to bring forth some new invention. But it's driven by ego because the person wants to be famous and leave a legacy, so he's remembered in future generations. You can see some of the richest people on Earth, I won't mention any names here, but look at some of the richest people who have created businesses and who think they're changing the world. But you can see they're driven by ego. They have an attachment. They want to be seen as important people while they live, but they also want to be remembered by history. Want to write themselves into history as the greatest scientist, inventor, politician, this or that. So that's an attachment. Beyond that can be a legitimate desire to help improve things on Earth. Same thing with an ascended master. An ascended master has overcome all attachments in order to ascend, where he can still have a legitimate desire to help the Earth be raised or help people grow and be free from the suffering you see on Earth. That's also why you can look at Jesus, who ascended after that lifetime, but still had a desire to fulfill this role and usher in the Piscean age. You can look at the Buddha, who first goes through his own personal growth, resolving his psychology, finding middle way, which required him to resolve these subconscious selves that pulled him towards the dualistic extremes. So he discovers the middle way, and he goes into nirvana, and he could have just ascended and moved on. But he decided to come back to Earth and teach for many years to bring forth a teaching that could help people be free from suffering. So there's a story about the Buddha that before he went into nirvana, he was sitting under a tree in meditation, and the demons of Mara appeared before him. And what they were trying to do was to test him to see if he had any attachment that they could pull him into reacting to anything on Earth. And by demonstrating that he had no attachment to anything on Earth, he could then go into nirvana, which means he qualified for his ascension. But instead of ascending right there, he came back to the physical body and taught for many years. But that was without attachment. That was just a legitimate desire to help other people. And there are many, many spiritual people who have this legitimate desire. But in order to fulfill the legitimate desire, we have to be willing to look at the beam in our own eye, look at these subconscious selves, and resolve the attachments we have, the attachment to doing something important. I talk about in my avatar videos how many avatars, we came here to improve things on Earth, and we can be very attached to doing something, so it seems like it was worthwhile for us to come here. And we have to overcome these attachments before we can actually really make a difference here. You can see more about that in my avatar videos.